Okay, now we're going to do the Yo Mama session. The #1 key to incredible sex. And I just want to set this up a little bit for you guys so you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. In addition to some of the things that I do, being a minister and a relationship speaker and a musician and whatever, I'm also a pilot. And if I were to try and tell you how to go from my home airport in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, to Green Bay. Ooh, we got a Green Bay person there. They say, Pastor, how do you get there? I'd say, well, you pretty much would fly a heading of 090. Actually, technically, it's a little more north of that, but for our example, that's fine. You fly 090, you pretty much go right from Stevens Point to Green Bay. Okay? Now, that's assuming there are no other variables. For example, if the wind starts blowing very hard out of the north, and you keep flying 090, you won't get to Green Bay. You'll wind up in Milwaukee or Chicago or who knows where else, depending on the strength of the wind. So if the wind is coming that hard, we might change our heading to 065 or something. Now we're flying more like this to go this way. Okay? If you keep just pointing the plane to where you want to go without adjusting to the variables, you'll always get off course. So it seems kind of odd, but a lot of times you're flying in weird angles so you can go straight. Now, what I'm going to share with you when I talk about sexual issues here is how to get from point A to point B. But it depends on your variables, and everybody has them. All right? And it's impossible for me to cover all of that in this session. I'll try and do the best that I can. But you're going to have to use your own best wisdom, your best judgment, common sense, to understand why something I might share may not exactly help you get to where you need to get because of your past or whatever the deal is. And then you adjust accordingly. And if you're really stuck, give us a call. Call our office. We would love to help you. And we really appreciate when people call us and asking us questions about, well, how do I deal with this problem and that sort of thing. So just keep that in mind. I understand you might have some big variables, and you'll just have to adjust for yourself in that. The other thing that I want you to keep in mind is this. Being a minister, sometimes when you start talking about sexual things and you start to try to explain to people why you have certain moral stands, they don't really understand, but there's a reason for that. The reason God encourages people to wait until marriage to have sex is because when you have sex outside of marriage, you run a very high risk of messing things up. Now, this is particularly true for men. Men tend to imprint off of their early sexual experiences, much like a bird. Some of these birds, these cranes and stuff, they imprint on the first thing they see after they're born. I don't know if you know about this, but there's some animals that when they're born, the first thing it sees, it imprints on and thinks it's mama. So if these stupid cranes are born and a chicken's around, it's going to follow the chicken and ignore its mother. And professionals who deal with these animals have to be very, very careful not to be seen over. I've watched them work with them while they're actually dressed up like gigantic cranes to get around them because they're not the brightest things in the world. It's mama, and they'll follow it everywhere. And men tend to imprint off of their early sexual experiences. If a man's early sexual experiences are in the context of lust, which is what they are outside of marriage. It's not really about love, it's about lust, it's about heat, it's about the backseat of a car, it's about someone they don't really know. They tend to imprint on that. They tend to imprint on the sex and not the girl. Are you following me? It's like when they have this, these early orgasmic experiences, it's like their psyche goes, whoa, what was that? And it starts taking pictures. This is because they want to remember. And they imprint off of this. And that's why a lot of guys, they get stuck here. That's why a lot of men are constantly, even in their marriages, are trying to recreate a lust environment, trying to get fulfilled sexually as a married man. trying to force their wives to do things that a lot of them are very uncomfortable in doing. Why are they doing that? Because they're trying to recreate this thing. They're trying to recreate this thing. See, if a man's early sexual experience is in the context of marriage, where he falls in love with this girl and all these people gather together and they all approve of it and they have this wedding and they're in a church and their God approves of it and all their friends and family approve of it and they have the biggest celebration of their life, and then on their wedding night and on their honeymoon he starts having these first experiences. Now he's imprinting on the girl and he connects to the girl at a very deep level. That's why people who wait until they're married to have sex have a fraction of the divorce rate of the rest of the world. Because he's imprinting on her as opposed to just sex. I met a man not too long ago who told me after a session, he says, I got a problem. I said, what is it? He says, I'm just not interested in sex. Which to a Puerto Rican is very odd. And it's like speaking Swahili, man. I don't know what he's talking about. and I said, well, what do you mean? He says, I don't know. I'm just not interested in her. And then she's really upset with me. And I said, well, are you never interested in sex? He says, well, if we go out and have a nice dinner and go to a hotel or something, then I can get into it. And I said, let me ask you a question. Were you a virgin when you got married? He goes, no. And I says, were you pretty sexually active? His eyes kind of lit up. Well, yeah. And I said, why don't you tell me about it? What would be a typical experience? Oh, I'd find these women and pick them up in bars and take them out for dinner and go to some hotel. I said, do you see what you've done? You've so imprinted off of that you constantly try to go back there. You try to go back there. In fact, psychologists today, my whole sex culture that you get from experts is all lust-based because they assume virtually everybody's already done this. So they try and encourage people to keep recreating and keep fantasizing and keep imagining and all this other kind of stuff. And it can be very, very destructive. And men can have a really hard time really, truly connecting with their wives. Can you get past that? Yes, you can. And I'm going to show you how. But you just got to understand it's going to be different for you than for everybody else. Same was true with women. They also imprint, but they imprint in a different way. It's not so much on the sex as so much what happens after the sex. And when women have sex outside of marriage, nothing happens after sex. There's no connection. There's no follow-up. They imprint on that sex equals nothing. Sex means nothing. That's why so many married women have such negative attitudes about sex. What I was talking about last night, how this is such a key thing, they don't even comprehend it because they have learned falsely that sex means nothing. If a woman waits until her wedding night and sees how that is how she connects with this guy, she understands this means everything. This is a key. This is a very fundamental thing. Particularly, you feel very bad for women who've been sexually molested because not only does it mean anything, their whole experience was forced on them. And that so has such an impact. Those early experiences are so important. It's not like God is embarrassed about sex. God is not a prude. He's seen you naked. He can handle it. It would really freak me out, but he can handle it. Some people say, yeah, you shouldn't have sex before marriage. Yeah, it's just puritanical nonsense. No. This stuff has a huge impact on people that a lot of you will struggle with this for the rest of your life. I'm going to show you how to help you with the struggle, which is not what you want to hear. You want to hear how you just fix it and it'll all go away. It won't probably just all go away. You will struggle with this for the rest of your life. All the more reason you need to tell your children what I'm about to tell you, so they do this right. It's a matter of like metabolism. You know how some people, they can eat anything they want and they never gain weight? We all hate those people. They never have to think about it. It's natural to them. They can eat anything and they stay slim all the time. Then there's the rest of us. We so much as look at food, we gain 5 pounds. What is the difference? We can still be at a healthy weight, but it's a lot harder for us. It's a lot more work for us, a lot more energy for us to get into a healthy place. What I'm talking to you about has to do with sexual metabolism. If you do this right in the beginning, those people have an automatic, natural, healthy metabolism. And they carry it with them throughout their whole lives. That's why these people usually stay married forever. These guys who get married at, 18 years old, like Debbie and I did, and die at 103, with just they have this healthy sexual metabolism because they didn't get all messed up. And everybody else struggles. That's not to say you cannot have a good sex life. You can. You can have a wonderful sex life. It's just for a lot of you, it's going to be more deliberate, and you're going to have to work at it a little bit harder than others. Are you following what I'm saying? I'm not trying to discourage you, but I'm not going to whitewash this to you. That's why you want to encourage your kids, wait. For the love of God, wait. And particularly for women, not only psychologically, they have now determined through research that women physically do not respond the same after they've had multiple sexual partners. Women typically, when they have sex, they release a chemical called oxytocin into their bloodstream. It gives them this buzz, and it helps them to connect emotionally. It's the same chemical that's released in a woman when she breastfeeds a little baby. And it helps her to connect. They call it the bonding chemical. They have measured that women who have multiple sexual partners, they start releasing less and less oxytocin. Just a physical thing. I mean, this is really dramatic for women. Physically, they can't even get the same buzz. It's not worth it. You can make it work. You can have a healthy sex life. I'm going to show you how to do it. But all the more reason you want to encourage your kids, wait. Do this right. Don't tell them sex is wrong. Sex is wrong. Man, I told my kids sex rocks. Man, sign me up, Jack. I like this. All right? But do it the right way. If you don't do it the right way, they can struggle. Some of you are struggling now. Some of you will struggle for the rest of your lives. You can get it right. Just your metabolism is going to be different. It'll take more energy, and that's okay. Are you hearing me? Don't get discouraged. You can still do it. It'll just be different than if you would have waited. I wish to God we'd all waited. I know we didn't. And it depends on the amount of damage. I mean, just because you had one or two, it doesn't not like you're seriously damaged. But some people who've really been into this stuff before they got married, you struggle. I know you really struggle with this stuff. And hopefully what I share with you in this session will really help you. Okay, y'all okay? You ready? Now what we're going to do is we are going to focus on the woman. You say, why is that? Because she's a lot more complicated than you. Thank you, dear. So we're going to focus on what it takes for a woman to experience great sex. You see, all a man needs for great sex is for you to show up. All we need is oxygen. Where is she? All right? All right, so guys are easy. Women are a little bit more complicated, and we're going to approach this. And again, keep in mind, I'm going to be dealing with this issue from a stereotypical standpoint that a man is more interested in sex than his wife. If you're the opposite, you just have to interpolate, and a lot of the same rules apply. All right? So anyway, so number 5. What does a girl need? Well, first, we're going to start with 5 and go up to the number 1 key to incredible sex. She needs romance. Looking at the Song of Solomon, he writes, "How delightful is your love, my bride. How much more pleasing is your love than wine, and the fragrance of your perfume than any spice." Here's a man who knew how to talk to a woman. He was romantic. Romantic. One of the things that really has me ticked off today with the whole porn thing, and there's lots of them that have me ticked off, but the fundamental one is that it has changed men today. It used to be that men were lovers of women, but this whole porn thing has turned so many men into self-centered pigs. It's not about making love to the woman, it's about being gratified. Why don't you do this to me? Why don't you do that? Hey, man, what do you do? Why don't you get your head out of the toilet? All right? You want to have a great sex life? You've got to learn how to be a lover to the girl. You know, a lot of guys get mad because women aren't as turned on as they are automatically, or don't have as much desire as they have. Guys will say, well, my wife's not interested in sex. Sure she is. All women are interested in sex. All women have sexual desire, but it's different from you. Your job is to be a lover to her and awaken the sexual desire that is in her. All right? And a lot of guys, they don't want to do that. They just want to be lazy. I know, I are one. The guy should focus on the girl. It should be the man's goal to bring his wife to orgasm. You know, and you usually can tell by the way she responds, the little oohs and the ahs, and some of y'all it's yee-haw! Of course, a lot of women say, well, I'm so embarrassed. I couldn't do that. You know, and I say, girls, if your husband has to constantly ask you if you've been to the promised land, you ain't communicating. So, well, I don't know what to do. You know, come up with a signal. You know, whisper bingo in his ear. It makes for great code later. You can talk around the kids. They have no idea what you're talking about. Hey, baby, you up for some bingo later? Yeah, I can do some bingo, you know. Your kids will say, man, you ever see mom and dad play bingo? What's with the bingo thing, you know? Of course, if you're a Catholic, I'm really freaking you out because y'all play bingo every Thursday night at your church. But that's a different bingo, all right? Lovers of women, you should be focusing on the girl. You need to romance the girl, and romancing the girl isn't in the middle of the night going, hey, you like? Say, well, I'm interested then. Well, you know, look, if your wife likes you waking her up in the dead of sleep, then go for it. I don't care. The minute you feel turned on, you don't have to be immediately gratified. All that's doing is God reminding you, be nice to the girl. Be nice to the girl. Be nice to the girl. All right? And then that should kick you into your romantic mode, not your, hey, come here, baby. Help me out, will you? It is your job to be a lover to the girl. And I'll tell you what, this whole desire thing really has a lot of couples stressed out. Because we've always heard, you know, all of our lives and all the books and all the sex education, this is how it works. You know, desire leads to arousal, which leads to sex. Right? We've all heard that. Great. Only one problem with that. It's not true for millions of people, particularly women. There's some guys, this works for them too, and they really struggle because they, you know, I'm a man, I should be this way, but a lot of people, they're not. A lot of women exhibit little to no desire at all. And then they feel badly about themselves because they think, well, I should. I should. Who told you you should? Some stupid textbook? Who cares? I have discovered, asking couples and interviewing them, that, you know, this whole desire thing, a lot of guys, yeah, she's just not ever interested in sex. She doesn't want to have sex. And I said, really? I said, well, let me ask you a question. Will she have sex with you? Well, yeah. Well, what's she like when she does? Oh, she's incredible. In fact, I've actually come to the point, I don't have any data to support this, but just, you know, from the couples I've talked to, but I've come to believe that some of the most sexual people on the planet exhibit little to no desire at all up front. In fact, a lot of women who are incredible sexual animals are only feel like doing it when they're doing it. They don't lead with this big desire thing in front. Now stop and think how that changes your view of yourself. Because right now, if you think, well, gee, I never feel that much, there's something wrong with me, then you develop a negative attitude about sex. See? And a lot of guys get angry at their wives because, well, she never initiates it. She never wants. Well, who cares? Who cares? I promise you, in my house, I am the initiator. I am the initiator. I will initiate, and then I'll be back. Who cares? Who cares? This has really got a lot of people messed up. I'm telling you, a lot of women, it's just not there until you start waking it in her. Okay? So you've got to learn to be a lover to the girl. Learn how to awaken the desire that is in her. Which leads me to the next point, which she needs foreplay. Now you're preaching, brother. And let me say this to you. You know, a lot of guys' way of initiating sex is they'll ask their wife, you want to have sex? And the answer more often than not is, no. Why would you ask a question that's most likely to be responded with a no? I never ask my wife if she wants to have sex. Never. I just go for it. Because I am the initiator. You may not feel like it now, but you will when I'm finished. Man, if your idea of romance and foreplay is, you want to have sex? There's something wrong with you. Come on, rise up. Take your place. Now check this out, Song of Solomon. I love this. He writes, your stature is like that of the palm tree, and your breasts are like clusters of fruit. I said to myself, I will climb the palm tree. Now take hold of the fruit. Hallelujah! Now the problem here is most guys don't want to take the time to climb the palm tree. They just want to hop in a cherry picker and swing in and grab the coconuts. Hey, baby, come on. You want to have sex? You awake? Come on. Stop that. You've got to learn how to climb the palm tree. You got to learn how to touch the girl. How to romance the girl. And you need to be romantic. You got to mix it up. Don't be so puking predictable. A lot of you guys, the minute you touch her, she knows what's coming. Why does she act like that? Because you're so obvious. You're so predictable. Women are not interested in a formula. Men are by nature formulaic. You do this, you do that, you get that. You do this, you do that, you get that. All right? And she's not, you do that every time with her. She just, get away from me. You need to mix it up. Gotta learn how to climb the palm tree. You really want great foreplay? Turn it into a 24-hour deal. I call it slow roasting your woman. Man, it rocks! Don't be in such a hurry. Kiss the girl, leave her alone. Flirt with the girl, leave her alone. Touch the girl, leave her alone. Keep her guessing. What's going on? What is this? My wife will come out of the shower and say, hey, baby, just lay down. I'll give her a back rub and she'll fall asleep. And I'll cover her up and I'll just crawl into bed next to her, turn off the light and go to sleep. So I couldn't do that, Pastor. I'd go blind. You won't go blind. You've got to learn how to climb it up on a tree. Take it a time. Don't worry about this desire thing. You see, I'm waiting for her to have all this desire on front. Stop. You're going to be a very old man before you have sex again. All right? Number 3, she needs time. Check this out. He says, how beautiful you are, my darling. Your eyes behind your veil are doves. Your hair is like a flock of goats. Not my choice of words, but apparently 4,000 years ago, this was hot talk. Your lips are like a scarlet ribbon. Your mouth is lovely. Your neck is like the Tower of David. Your 2 breasts are like two fawns, like twin fawns of a gazelle that browse among the lilies. And check this out. He says, until the dawn breaks and the shadows flee. In other words, all night long. This dude had to be in his 20s, man, I'm telling you. This Puerto Rican's way past all night long, I gotta tell you right now. But all night long. What's he gonna do all night long? He says, I will go to the mountain of myrrh and to the hill of incense. Where exactly is that, Pastor? Let me explain it to you. If you look in the back of your Bible where they have all those nice maps of the Holy Land and stuff, you can look as hard as you want, you won't find Myrrh Mountain anywhere. So, well, where is it? Well, I'll think it through. Talks about her hair, and her eyes, and her nose, and her lips, and her neck, and her breasts. Ends up at Myrrh Mountain. Where do you think it is? That's in the Bible? Yes, it is. And the wild thing is he's there all night long. Which brings me to a very delicate subject. And for the love of God, don't raise your hands or point out anyone. But this is a problem for a lot of guys. I was watching this TV show once. My wife was in the hospital, and I was in the hospital with her, and we're just kind of killing time watching TV and flipping through the channels and all these daytime shows and different chick shows, talk shows, and we hit this one, and the lady says, today we're going to be discussing why women have a difficult time achieving orgasm. I said, okay, I'm in. So I said, let's watch this one. I like this one. So they have these women, and they have these psychologists and these doctors, and they're all, what's wrong with us? What's wrong with us, you know, women? What's wrong with us? We stink, we stink, we stink. And then they would go to the commercials, and they would do these teasers where they would ask a question and then give potential answers, and then you had to wait until after the commercial to get the answer, right? It's a teaser, make you stick around. Well, about halfway through the show, they asked this one question. What is the average length of a man's sexual experience? A, 2 minutes, B, 10 minutes, C, 20 minutes. And it went to commercial. I looked at Debbie, and I said, you know what the answer is? She goes, no, what? I said, 2 minutes. She goes, oh, it is not. I said, you watch. Came back, and ding! 2 minutes. And then they went on. What's wrong with us? How can we have a hard time achieving orgasm? Hello, did you see the screen? Now do the math. If a woman needs anywhere from 7 to 14 minutes, and a boy's done in 2 minutes, you got yourself a math problem. And the worst part of it is, 2 minutes is the average. Now, guys, you can do better than the 2-minute drill. There's all kinds of things you can do. There's all kinds of books. There's all kinds of helps. There's exercises you can do. And I don't like exercising, but this stuff I can do. You know, that where you can get past this 2-minute drill problem. Now, ladies, you have to understand the number one element to enable a man to beat the 2-minute drill is regular, consistent sex. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You make a guy wait for 2 weeks, and he ain't gonna last 30 seconds, for crying out loud. All right, you need to help this boy become a lover to you. You gotta help him get his stamina up, all right? But you gotta be focused on the girl. Now, if all you are is focused on yourself, a lot of guys, that's 2 minutes is more than enough time. It's all about them. Oh, get my release, okay, thanks. And then they wonder why she doesn't want to have sex later. Well, it's a drag for her. I know women who've been married their entire married lives who've never had an orgasm. Never. But who'd been married before and knew what an orgasm was. They knew what I was talking about. Come into my office, and I don't know. I said, well, let me ask you a question. Does he ever ring your bell? No. So have you ever had your bell rung? Yeah. So she knew what I was talking about. Been married before. So let me ask you a question. When he makes love to you, she goes, yeah. I said, 2 minutes or less. She goes, how'd you know? I mean, come on, guys. We can do better than the 2-minute drill. All right? Number 2, she needs privacy. Amen. He writes, let us go early to the vineyards. Secret place, private place. To see if the vines have budded. If their blossoms have opened. If the pomegranates are in bloom. People sure are into gardening. And there he says, I will give you my love. It's going to be very difficult for a woman to feel very sexual or turned on if she doesn't feel that her lovemaking to you is safe and private. All right? Which means chances are, if you have dinner guests waiting in the next room, she won't be very interested. To a lot of guys, we'd have no problem with that. Make yourselves at home. There's Doritos in the cupboard. We'll be with you in a little bit. About 2 minutes, I'd say. She's not going to be interested in that, you nitwit. That's why for a lot of women, just having children makes it difficult for them to feel very sexual. I call children the anti-sex. Because they're always around. They're always around. It's always around. And it's hard for them to feel very sexual. You got to work with her on that. And ladies, you know, there's locks on your doors. Use them, you know. You can't just neglect the sexual needs of your husband until they're 18. Don't worry, honey. They'll be gone eventually. Everything changes with children. You know, you're not the same anymore. Women, guys have to understand that physically they're different, emotionally they're different, everything's changed. Those beautiful, seductive breasts are suddenly transformed from erogenous zones into public utilities. And guys, she's being touched all day long. and then you come home. Hey, baby. Touch me and die. You know, you hang a couple of monkeys from your testicles all day long. See how you feel at the end of the day. I'm good. I'm good, thanks. I'm okay, thank you. Thanks for asking. I'm good. I'm good. Boys, she's not the same, but girls, he is. Ain't nothing happened to him. He's still the same wild man you married. And a lot of couples, they really mess up at this point in their marriages. That's why a lot of marriages only make it to about the 5 to 7 year mark. Just long enough for the rugrats to come in, upset the apple cart, and you fail to make the proper adjustments. And it destroys the relationship. Ladies, you cannot get so engrossed in being mommies that you forget about the sexual needs of your husband. So, but Johnny needs me, Johnny needs me. I'll tell you what Johnny needs. He needs a father. And if you keep it up, he's not going to have one. It's not worth it. And girls, you have to be really careful about rejecting your husband sexually. I don't know if you're aware of this, but for most men, as few as 3 or 4 rejections in a row, and he'll begin to shut down sexually. If you have a husband who argues with you about sex, consider yourself blessed by God. Because at least you keep it on the front table. But a lot of guys, they just shut down. I have women in conferences like this who come up to me, tears running down their faces, saying, I did that to my husband, now he won't touch me. It's not worth it. Why do you think all the jokes on TV are about the young, sexually frustrated man, but the older, sexually frustrated woman? Because she comes back to life, see? You're going to come back to where you were, but now he won't care about you anymore. He won't feel safe to be the initiator anymore. And it's going to, you say, well, what do we do? Everything, you know, it rarely ever goes back to the way it was. You might have to turn into the initiator. I mean, it's not worth it. You younger ones, watch yourselves during this time. I understand you're tired. And guys, get a clue. The girl is exhausted. Give her a break. Let her rest. They just did a survey on USA Today weekend, this weekend. I don't know if you saw it. But they said, what were men's #1 interests? It was sex, food, and sleep. And they surveyed women, and their top 3 interests were sleep, food, and sex. I mean, you're being traded in for a cheeseburger, Jack. You know what I'm saying? Help the girl. Let her rest. Give her a break. You want her to be a lover to you? Let her take a nap. You take the little rugrats for a while. Let them peel your brain apart. All right? And all of this now leads us to the #1 key to incredible sex, which I will give to you right after this break.